Hi, how's it going? Hi, Facebook. Hi, Instagram. We'll wait another couple of minutes. So just always start warming up the wrists and the shoulders, settling in. We're still a little bit early. Everything's working before I go live right at 1:15. Yeah, so I'm going to warm myself up. You warm yourself up, and we'll all gather up in a couple of minutes. So really all I'm doing right now is mobilizing the wrists and waking up the fingers and checking in with the breath. And you can do whatever you want. Maybe you're sitting and rolling the shoulders. Maybe you're playing with the hamstrings. Haven't really started class yet. I'm just taking this time to settle. Yeah, but come in quietly. So I haven't pulled you into a group yet. We're just warming up the shoulders and the wrists. You're giving everyone a chance to log in. That might be a couple minutes late. And maybe their clocks are running faster or slower than mine. Excuse me. And notice how I'm just kind of freely warming the hands, the shoulders, the spine. It's just very curious movement, and we'll make official yoga poses in another couple of breaths. But just the more you're noticing how your body is this morning, the more you'll get out of the practice. So if you're already kind of warming up, great. If you're just tuning in, we'll just take a moment. I'm going to stay sitting on my shins. You can keep the legs straight out. You can sit cross-legged. You can sit on a cushion. We won't sit for very long, but we're just going to kind of close the eyes for a second and hit the reset button. Just 3 big breaths with the eyes closed. That's all we're looking for. Feeling the expansion of the inhale. And since we're getting ready to move, I'm going to start to draw right from the pelvic floor, squeeze up through the abdominals, through the rib cage, like you're climbing that action up your spine, all the way up and out the sinuses. Now, I won't go too much into details of breath, but just making sure that you don't wind up holding your breath either from muscular exertion or from trying to force a stretch. If you hold the breath, it's going to be way more stressful than it has to be. And then from this place of awareness, just circle the shoulders for a second. Rolling back, rolling forward. And take a moment as well to really pick yourself up through the back of the tongue. Like you're picking yourself up with the vocal cords. There's a deeper way of lifting the neck rather than just grabbing upper trapezius, like It's very easy to do. And then keeping that lift through the back of the throat, just start to circle out your chin. So that you feel like you're rotating right from the back of the skull, right from the occipital muscles. So you're spinning at the top of your neck rather than cranking the base of your neck. Good. And then no matter where we go, no matter what the arms do today, I'm looking to keep this nice length, this kind of four-way intersection, never clamping up into my neck. We'll come around to all fours. And I'm just gonna play with the hands a couple more times. So for those of you that are just settling in, because this style of movement puts us in the hands, I always take the time to play with the wrists one way or the other, and just really thinking about good activation in the fingers, like I'm grabbing a big fistful of yoga mat, so I can feel my palms light up when I'm pushing the floor. Good. So if you guys are members of Fit 100, I'm sure you're used to doing planks and press-ups. And in yoga, we do a lot of tricep press-ups. So we're really trying to get the elbows squeezed tight so the action is here, rather than if the elbows are popping out, it tends to climb back up into the neck. I'm just going to do a gentle drill. You can do this in full planks if you want to. I'm personally not, so that I can get more into fussing the details of my position. Then I can plank it later. But I'm just going to come to the back of my mat. I'm still on my knees. I'm going to consciously zip up through the belly. I'm going to walk the hands out and then walk the hands in. I'm just doing that a couple of times, just thinking about playing. And the more you walk out, the easier it is to start doing this. So I'm going to really zip, bring the pelvis forward, glutes and belly kind of sandwiching, and then come back. And then this time as I walk out, I'm going to walk out to a kneeling plank and keep the elbows in close, keep the neck nice and long as I take a little bit of a press up. I really finesse the mechanics in the arms. So rather than turning this into a body weight movement workout, which is nothing wrong with that, I'm going to study my mechanics. So I'm moving gentler than I possibly could. I'm being a perfectionist about hands, elbows, shoulders, neck. Do however many you feel you can retain quality. If you want to lift your knees and do a proper press up, go for that. Now this time, I'm going to stay on my knees, and now I'm going to try to surprise myself. So I'm going to take one hand asymmetrically off in the one direction and then another hand somewhere else. Now my spine is twisted. Now it's more challenging. I've got one elbow popping in, one elbow popping out. I'm going to reel back in. And then the next time I walk out, I'm going to vary it again. And try to do a crooked press up. And then forward, maybe my hands are really close together. Try to do a narrow press up. Come back, walk forward. Decide at the last minute. Now my hands are really wide. Now I'm doing a wide popped elbows press up. Yeah. So do a couple of these, just exploring. Notice the choice that you have to take in the position of your arms, your hands, your elbows. It'll make a difference if your hands spin in or your hands spin out. If one arm is higher than the other, they'll kind of alligator from side to side. So really vary and experiment while keeping the glutes and belly strong, so you're not just dipping in all fours position. This is an opportunity to wake up the core and wake up the shoulders and kind of strengthen what are kind of weaker lines. So we're breaking alignment on purpose. Breaking alignment so that we can get into all the little bits in between. That last one. And then this time, I'm going to curl up my toes behind me. So I don't know how well you can see it on the little cameras. But I'm on my tippy toes, so I'm stretching the plantar fascia and the soles of the feet. And then I'm going to lace my hands around behind me, weave a basket with the fingers, and just squeeze the shoulders together and down the back to contrast all that forward pressing. And maybe having the opportunity to open up through the neck again. A little more so now that we've heated up. I'm slowing the breath. Good. Now we'll come to downward dog. So I'm assuming most of you guys know downward dog. If not, real briefly, I'm pushing the floor away, getting upside down. It's more important to get the hips in the air than it is to have straight legs. So at first, even if you're really flexible, just kind of pedal and play, then one knee and then the other, lengthening the hamstrings and the calves back. And then if your heels hit the floor, great. If they don't hit the floor, that's okay too. Super long. So we woke up the shoulders, we woke up the core. We're gonna wake up the legs a little bit. I'm gonna take the right leg up into the air, and I'm gonna keep some power in that flying leg. So this is three-legged dog or three-pointed dog. And think of the flying leg as like a jet engine pulling you back off the shoulders. Your foot on the floor is gonna lift and drop like a little piston. So you're really gonna work the foot on the floor as you start to feel the conversation up soleus, up gastroc, picking up the sole of the foot. I'm gonna really set down, take the other leg up. So super sparky in that flying leg. It's heroically pulling you back off the shoulders. And the foot on the floor is lifting and dropping as you play with that ankle. Warm up the mechanics up the back of the calf. And really sit down. And take your right leg back up. Sprout way up onto the tiptoes. Zip, bring your knee into the chest. Try to step all the way into the hands if you can. And if that doesn't work for you, drop to kneeling, grab your foot, plonk your foot down in between the hands, and then pick up your back knee. So either way, we look like this. And then I'm gonna rock back and use those springy engines in the legs to come all the way up to a standing lunge. Notice how my back heel is in the air. This is important. I'm gonna find balance, and if you feel like you're kind of on a tightrope, your front foot can go out wider so you're spreading out your stance. So once I'm here and I find balance, you're gonna take the arms up. And on your exhale, bring the hands down and sink into that back leg. Inhale, reach. And sink down into that back leg. You just travel a couple times. Hopefully, as long as your knees are happy, as long as your breath is steady, you're starting to warm up the legs. Maybe your back kneecap just locates the mat, boop, without ever resting on the mat, so you're exploring your full range of motion. Maybe you feel like you can spread out your stance a little more, if this is getting easy. Then again, maybe just staying and holding balance. Maybe just little movements. So adapt this for your body. Maybe you're traveling a little, maybe you're traveling a lot. Good. Now from here, I'm going to inhale, reach up, turn the palms to face each other. Really get tall. Bend your front knee. And the back leg now looks to lengthen. So I'm really opening my left hip flexors. And then from here, I'm going to lean forward. Imagine like someone's pulling your hands up and across the room. Really sit into this front leg and think about digging your heel, digging into that hamstring. I'm going to heat up that leg so that we can melt it out. Using your breath like air conditioning here. This is a heated moment. Big, slow breath, cooling the heat. 3, 2, and 1. Drop the back knee, melt your hands to the floor. I'm gonna unhook my back foot and just easy travel forward and back. Maybe you move a little, maybe you move a lot. So we're really starting to get into the hips. We heated up the legs so that we could melt them out. There's a couple options here. I'm walking my hands with me, which makes it easier to get the conversation going in the hips forward and back. If you leave your hands at the top of the mat, it's a little more challenging because now my spine has to kind of get an elastic conversation. My fingers are reaching forward as my hips pull back. So that's a stronger adjustment, which you can play with if you want. If you know more variations here, take them. But for today, we'll just take a couple more breaths here, kind of massaging out the mechanics in the legs. And then I'm going to rock forward, pick up the back knee, plug in the hands. So really push down. We've warmed up our plank mechanics. Zip the belly. Slip that right foot out and just circle off that hip socket while the rest of your body maintains this plank. And you're breathing. You're staying curious. Kick that leg back up to the sky. Fully expand your three-legged dog. And eventually the right foot comes down to the floor. Pedal it off. Take a couple big breaths. And we'll play with the second side. So I'm going to take my left leg up. I'm going to pop up to the tippy toes, zip my knee into my belly, try to step into my hands. And you can always drop and grab your foot. Do whatever works. Rock back. Roll up. Nice springy legs underneath you. Finding your balance, spreading your stance as you need. And once you feel nicely like you've got little springy engines underneath you, start to travel your lunge. My hands come to center as I drop towards the back knee, get into that right quad. And really thinking about if your movement is connected with your breath. So if I'm just kind of doing lunges and kind of breathing, I'm missing out on a chance to really regulate my breath, which helps regulate my nervous system. I'm missing out on a chance to be a little more conscious of the mechanics. So I'm not counting reps. We're just going to stay and breathe. You might need to drop out. You might want to do more of these. Hopefully, as you warm up, that back knee, boop, hits the mat. Good. And the next time you reach up, you're going to turn the palms to face each other. Someone's picking you up by the arms. Get tall, and then sit against that line. Your back leg is looking to lengthen. Dropping right hip flexors. And then we're going to start to, I'm deliberately trying to heat up the front leg. So that front heel is going to pull me forward as I really load the front thigh. Arms diagonally spark up across the room. My back leg is kind of anchoring back, so you're really starfishing out through all of your limbs and up through the head. Using the cooling effect of deep, slow breaths. For 3, 2, and 1. And as you melt out of that isometric tension, notice how hopefully that leg is a little more pliable than if we just gotten on the mat and started to try to pull it open. So always like to heat and then release, heat and then release. And again, you can walk the hands with you. And maybe as you warm up, leaving the fingers, pushing the mat away as you sink your hips back, makes this a little more challenging through the whole posterior chain. And take one more big round of breath. Good. Then, settling into the hands, push down, pick up the back knee, set your plank, slip that left foot, and just circle out that hip socket while the rest of you maintains good activation, connects with the breath. And eventually kicking up to the sky, three-legged dog. Putting the foot on the floor, pedal out your downward dog. I'm going to roll up onto the tippy toes, roll forward into a plank. Totally up to you. If you want to do a nice little narrow tricep press up, like we do in yoga, you can. Eventually, we'll all meet up on the floor. So if you don't fancy press ups this morning, you don't have to. I'm going to pull my toes way down the back of my mat. Open the front of the thighs onto the floor. I'm going to slide my hands back. So notice how my thumbs are way down by the base of my rib cage. My elbows are at 90. My hands are pretty low towards the waist. I'm just going to peel and get some spinal extension. I'm not really looking up. And then exhale, melt down, forehead back to the floor. Let the arms start to peel the ribs up. Your head is just carried with the movement, and then melt back down. So I'm really consciously keeping the neck long as I think about retracting and depressing my shoulder blades, as I think about keeping the legs and the glutes engaged to help protect and stabilize around the low back. I can feel all the muscles up the spine climbing me off the floor. All the way up. And then this time, as you roll up, so these are cobras. This time I'm going to continue up past cobra all the way up to upward dog with straight arms, keeping that neck nice and long. So I took the time to fire up legs, glutes, spine, so that when I pull all the way up to my upward dog, it's super happy. My neck isn't clamping. Loads of space to breathe. And then I'm going to leave the knees on the floor, push the floor, zip the belly, cat back to a child's pose. Take a breath here. And we'll roll through that sequence one more time and a little more smoothly. So come on up to downward dog. Hands push down, sit bones spread up and apart. Maybe your heels are getting closer to the floor now that we've stretched out the legs a little bit. And when you're ready, inhale up onto the tippy toes. Use your next exhale to zip, tuck the hips under, zip the six pack, roll forward your head, project forward into your plank. Up to you if you're melting or you're doing a press up, but eventually we'll all meet up on the floor. If your hands aren't nice and low already, shift them back. Gather up the legs of the core, pull yourself through, lifting through the back of the throat. Make sure you're not looking at the ceiling, you're just easy looking forward, and it's like you're pulling the chest through. Think prow of a ship. Then if you want to look up, looking up is a bonus, but I feel like people just bounce through upward dog and it's such a deep pose. Look down, straight arms pushing the floor, zip like you're winding a ball of string. Roll back up to downward dog. Flip the toes back around. Good. And now from here, I'm going to drop you to all fours for a second. So the body's well heated. Take your right leg up and step outside your right hand. Notice how everything's nice and boxy. And doubtless there's a few of us at home doing this right now, pulling the back leg back. Don't do that yet. I'm going to keep that knee in close. Notice how I'm very square and boxy. Then I'm going to rock forward and back. And maybe kind of lean from side to side and just try to explore this hip socket a little bit. We've done other variations in the last couple weeks, but today, what I'm going to go for, once we kind of challenge and massage, is head towards the lizard pose. And lizard's kind of the first one. Everything else is a variation off of lizard. But I think what really makes lizard lizard is that I'm looking to keep my shin straight up and down. So it might want to fall to the side. I'm going to step and keep it straight up and down. Or we might want to creep forward. And that's kind of losing the lizard as well. So I want my knee just to stay exactly vertically over the ankle. And then the first prep we're going to do is I'm just going to try to drop an elbow and then another elbow. And I'm going to twist from side to side as I play with that. Probably, so my right leg, my right shin is vertical. It's going to be hard to get my right elbow down to the floor. It depends on how much twisting and forward flexion, how much hip flexion you can create as well. If your elbow doesn't hit the floor, no worries, it's challenging. I'm just going to test a couple times, looking from side to side, encouraging that twist can help you sink in a little bit more. Looking to keep that vertical shin. Good. And then, so I'm going to turn this way again. So nice vertical shin. My right hand is just inside that right foot. And I'm going to keep the arm straight for now. Pull my head forward, nice long spine. Now that back leg can creep out like it wants to. And now we can start to melt into the hips. So we've got deep flexion on the right hip and some nice extension starting to happen on the left hip. And I'm going to make sure that my shoulders are not climbing into my jaw, but I still have that grabbing and pulling, almost like upward dog, like we were just experimenting with. Good. So here's one variation of lizard pose. And maybe this is enough sensation in your hips. And if you want more, I might walk my hands forward while keeping a long spine. So instead of twisting and flexing the spine, I want to keep long. Maybe this is the next plateau as you sink in a little more. Notice at this point, my knee is starting to fall out to the side. So the challenge is to keep that vertical knee, to keep hugging your thigh to the side of your rib cage. Yeah. From here, those of you that are flexible, those of you that want a little more sensation in that right hip, I might drop to the elbows, and it might just be one elbow. Maybe getting that right elbow to the floor is asking a lot. If I can keep a vertical shin and the spine is still long and you have both elbows on the floor, lovely, you're moving pretty far into lizard pose. But maybe one elbow, maybe both elbows are up in the air. Maybe your hands are back here and you're still pulling more of an upward dog. These are all great places to hang out. Depends on the sensation. We'll roll back up. Good. Wiggle out the hips. Slow play with lizard on the other side. When you're ready, take your left leg up. And just step outside your left hand. And again, I'm going to stay really boxy. So don't let that right leg creep out yet. I'm staying really square so I can rock forward and back. Kind of move around with my hips a little bit. So we're about 5 minutes away from the 30-minute mark. I'll probably go over again. I understand if you guys have to leave, but I'm just exploring and playing and shifting the hips. And then once I've kind of massaged and warmed up into the situation, now I'm going to think again, vertical shin. And that's the prerequisite for anything else we're going to do. So I'm thinking about that vertical shin. I'm going to keep it square, and then I'm just going to play with dipping elbows. And maybe that left elbow drops inside the left ankle, but maybe not. Really question sensation, what feels like beneficial challenge. Pinchy and pokey are generally not going to be beneficial challenges. If the sensation that arises can be pinchy or pokey, then maybe avoid that range of motion. You want to get, anytime you're playing with these big full body stretches, you're looking to target the fascia and the way the muscles blend into each other like links in a chain. So you want nice big elastic spider web sensations in your stretch. Anything too localized, you're kind of annoying a weak spot in the chain. So I'm just twisting and folding and testing. And then I'm going to check in, reestablish that vertical shin, reestablish those nice plank arms. Head reaching forward, my back leg's going to start to creep back as we head towards more traditional lizard. And I'm just going to stay at level 1 for a good few breaths and make sure that this is settling nicely. I'm analyzing, how am I holding the body here? What's maybe gripping and resisting unnecessarily, and what's maybe overactivating and blocking me from melting? Feeling that right hip sink down behind you. Nice long neck. Nice proud alignment up through the rib cage. And then I'm going to take the hands forward. And maybe this is the next plateau. So this is a little more downward pressure into that left hip. Notice at this point, your knee might start to fall away. Really trying to hug your thigh to your rib cage. Use the inner line to drop the outer line. Use the inner thigh to drop the outer thigh. Maybe some of you might be creeping down onto the elbows and keeping a long spine and keeping a vertical chin. Those are all maybes. So we'll take one more breath here in lizard pose. And gently come up, retracing your steps. Come on back to all fours. And nice, slow, easy movements. Maybe shift the hips from side to side. Maybe arch and curl. So take a couple moments to spontaneously follow anything. The lovely thing about the phrase that we practiced, so we did downward dog, plank to the floor, upward dog, and back to downward dog. That's the vinyasa of vinyasa yoga. So really getting to know that's kind of what sets this style of movement. And it's great because there's some forward flexion, there's some extension, the hip openers that I did. So this is like in 30 minutes, you kind of hit off most major joint systems in the body. But maybe you feel inspired to keep moving and head towards more advanced poses. You're well warmed up in all directions. Maybe heading towards deeper twists or opening the hamstrings a little more. Maybe this is getting you ready for a workout, nice mindful warm-up. Or maybe you're ready to come down to stillness. So if you're going to go head off on a workout, feel free to log out and have fun on your workout. But if you want to stay and do a couple moments of stillness, which we usually do at the end of yoga, you can either sit or rest on the floor. Whatever allows you to be comfortable. So if sitting on the floor is a bit tight for you, feel free to lay down. I'd say most people really lay down. But if you're used to sitting on the floor, if you have a meditation practice, staying upright is totally fine. Maybe the eyes stay open, but hopefully they float closed. And kind of a brief, strong practice like that. The heart rate is still up, the breath is still pretty fast. So coming to stillness when we're still fairly activated just means observing all of that. So you're not trying to force the breath slower. You're just welcoming that stimulation. Notice the speed of the heart rate. Just observing that. And maybe just briefly over the next couple breaths, scanning from head to toe and noticing the effect physically of those movements. Notice how the shoulders feel after all those press-up variations. Notice how the hips feel after those nice deep lizard poses. Notice how the spine feels after all that mindful flexion and extension. Maybe rather than examining parts and pieces, finally we'll just pull the focus back and see the whole body as an organized whole. The global aspect of the muscles like links in a chain, the fascia wrapping around everything from head to toe. Take one more big breath here. And the next time you exhale, if you're on the floor, thinking about inhaling, reaching through all four limbs, exhale, gather the knees into the chest, meet up with us sitting upright. I'll close the hands at center. Namaste. Thanks for joining in. Short but sweet practice. I hope I set you up for the rest of the weekend. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, Fit 100.